Good day, everyone. You are watching Community Outreach Update Show here at Muskegon Community College. And I, again, are your host, Mary Ann Williams. Today, we are very pleased to have with us Pastor Tim Cross. He's the pastor of Living Word Church here in Muskegon. Pastor Cross not only ministers to his parishioners, but he has devoted a great deal of time to ministering to those in our community and to adopting and caring for those who have needs. So we're very pleased to have him with us. Welcome, Pastor Cross.
Well, thank you. It's a privilege to be here.
Well, we're excited. And I know that you're the pastor of Living Word Church, but why don't you just start out by telling us some of the other activities that you're involved in?
Wow, well, I just came back from Honduras, and I'll be leaving in a couple months for the Philippines, so I do work overseas. I've been involved here at the community college with some of the, at least working with some of the students here. And as well, we've been involved in a program reaching out to really middle school students. It really started with something you and I worked with, or we were on a committee together working at how we can, or looking at how we could possibly make an impact in some of the violence, some of the troubled situations in our community. And we've started a program called Men of Honor in the middle schools here in Muskegon County.
Now that's awesome. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But I believe you spent a great deal of time researching that. As you said, we started with a program here, a men's conference, and from that evolved the Men of Honor. We must say that we didn't have a large crowd for the men's conference, but what we got from that was very good. We've got response from men who are willing to work. So can you go into depth with us about that?
Well, you see, I think if there's a crisis of anything, and when I say this, it could almost sound sexist. Now, I'm not against women, but I think that there's a crisis in our nation and really our society of men, men taking their role and taking their position. And I think in the last 30, 40 years, the role that a man had in society, in the home, especially in the inner cities, they've really moved back from that and not doing that role. And I think we're seeing some of the results. I was in a meeting not too long ago, and they were talking about some of the problems in the inner city. The crime, the violence, the joblessness, and et cetera. And as a pastor, and that's, I guess as a preacher, I feel like I need to bring at least a biblical perspective or view to things. And I looked in this group and I said, when we look at what's going on a great deal in our inner cities, I think, and we can throw money at this program and that program. But I said, I think scripturally it gets down to this. Malachi 4:6 says this: if you don't turn the hearts of the fathers back towards the children and the children towards the fathers, the Bible says the land would be struck with a curse. And I think part of what we're dealing with in our inner cities is the fact that we're dealing with the curse of fatherlessness, that role of men, especially in young men's lives, because it takes a man to affirm a young man in his manhood. Now, I will say that from the perspective that my mother was divorced when I was 9 years old. My father dealt with alcoholism, and so I know what it means. My mother did the best that she could, and I salute my mother, and I love my mother a great deal. But it took some other men in my life to pull out that manhood, if I could say it that way, challenge me to be a man. And I think one of the things is, as we were getting together, I guess about 4 years ago, coming out of that men's conference that you headed up and that you did, and I don't know how I got on the list to be a speaker, but that started a relationship. I remember in some of our meetings, we were talking about how we could address some of this. What could we do? And although you can't, in a sense, with some of our young men and young ladies in the community, we may not be able to become their, quote, mother or father, type of situation. Yes. But yet, could we get into a spot where we could, I guess there's that old saying, people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care.
Yes.
Can we get into a spot where we can show that we care, that we're concerned for these especially at-risk young men? Now, I've done prison ministry. I got an award a few months ago. I didn't even go to get it, to be honest with you, but for 25 years of going into prisons here in Muskegon. And I have gone in and taught men's basically manhood stuff. And you'd think, man, why do you have to teach that in a prison full of men? Because you got a lot of men in there that don't know what it means to be a man. They don't know what it looks like. And I'd go and I'd teach, this is what a man does. This is how a man acts. This is how a man treats a woman. This is how a man, a man keeps his word, and a man has integrity. And I remember there was a man in prison. He'd been in for over 30 years, and he had murdered somebody here in Muskegon. He admits to it. He said, I killed this guy. But he sat there with tears running down his face, and he looked at me. And, you know, if you do enough prison ministry, you know the guys that are playing games, and after a while, you realize the ones that are sincere. And he looked at me with tears running down his face, and he said, where was this information 35 years ago?
Yes.
If somebody had taught me this when I was a young man, if somebody had challenged me with this as a young man, I never would have ended up here. And that, I've had prisoners say a lot of things to me in 25 years, but that I'll never forget. That struck me. And although our ministry is still doing stuff in prisons, I've shifted my focus in terms of I can deal with them after the fact,
Yes.
or I can try to save and try to prevent them from ever getting there. So we're looking at what we can do with some of those at-risk young men. And I remember we were sitting in meetings, and after that men's conference, and we were just sort of brainstorming. And the comment came up, you know, what's a way that we can impact some of these young men, young ladies, to hopefully intersect them before they get into greater trouble?
Yes.
And the comment came out, what if we've got a chess club or we've got a Spanish club or something, what if we had some sort of club teaching young men, this is what it means to be a man. This is how a man acts. And I sort of, my philosophy with men, and especially young men, because I believe it fits there, is I believe there's an eagle and a turkey on the inside of every young man.
Wonderful.
And my philosophy is it's usually the one that gets talked to, the one of those two birds that gets talked to that usually rises to the ascendancy. And in our culture today, with our music and most of our movies and a lot of stuff on television,
Yes.
usually speaks to the turkey on the inside of young men. Mm-hmm. And how often does that eagle get challenged? Because I really believe in young men that if it can get challenged, there's an eagle someplace on the inside of them that wants to be a man of honor, that wants to be a man of integrity, and wants to treat the opposite sex right. They want to do, I believe there's something on the inside of them. But if we don't raise the standard, if we don't challenge them, and I think young men, they like challenges. That's why they do crazy things.
Since they want someone to challenge them.
Yeah. And a lot of times they're being challenged in the wrong direction.
Correct.
You know, and so we're looking at what are some things we can do to challenge young men, not to be hoodlums, not to be gangbangers, but to be young men of honor and integrity and uprightness. That people say, man, that's a quality young man. And so that's what we've been endeavoring in the community to do.
Well, that's wonderful, and I really appreciate your efforts, and taking it to the next level has proven to be the true leader that you are. Now, how many young men so far have gone through this Men of Honor program?
Probably about 30 or 40 right now, and
Wonderful.
we're in 3 schools. We've started our 4th school now. I think we've got 50 or 60 involved in those clubs right now, and it's beginning to gain momentum. The truth is that we actually have more schools open to us than what I have people to staff them to a degree.
Okay.
We've got 2 or 3 schools right now that are open up to us. And our program is called Men of Honor, and it's a faith-based program. It's a faith-based character development program. And for the most part, I think every principal that we have shown this to, the principals have loved it. They've said, we got to have this. One principal, I went in to sit down and talk with him about what we want to do, and he stopped me about 2 sentences in and said, just stop. I said, okay. And he said, you don't have to tell me anything else. I want it. Just do it.
Wonderful. Well, now, is there a cost? Does the school have to provide any type of cost for this, the parents?
No. What we do is we raise funds. I mean, we have various fundraisers. We do a golf outing. We do a golf scramble to raise some money. And we also, believe it or not, some of these fireworks tents that you around July 4th, we actually run one of those. I think we're going to run 2. And that has funded it so far. But what we do is we have the young men, and we actually also have a Ladies of Honor program. We've started our 2nd one of those. We have 2 of them this year. So what we do is we have them come to that. And we have, they earn shirts when they learn certain things. They earn tenant pins that they get. We just had our first awards banquet where they were awarded. It's a 2-year program.
Awesome.
Those that have completed the program, they get awarded. And and basically the men of honor and the ladies of honor pay for all of that. If there is any cost, or what we do deal with is we take kids to a camp, and one of the elements of this program is we get them away, especially kids from the inner city. We get them out to a camp, which is rather interesting. Some of them have never been in the woods, and it's hard to explain what takes place at that camp, and it's. Just in all honesty, our first camp we've got a club in Whitehall, we've got a club in Muskegon. And actually, it's when Muskegon had two middle schools. We were in both of the middle schools in Muskegon. And it was rather interesting as we were getting ready to go to our first camp and combine those kids. We had kids in Muskegon saying, listen, and these were African-American kids. They're saying, them kids up there in Whitehall, they're racist. One word out of them, and I just don't. And we're going, listen, it'll be cool. And so we were a little bit concerned what would happen when we got them together. Within 15 minutes, they were working together as teams.
Awesome.
We have things planned out. We have stuff that happened. We sat there as camp leaders and were absolutely amazed at what happened as they got together and they became part of teams. They began to work together, and they found out, this guy might be a different color than me, but you know what? We're working together. We're men of honor.
That's great.
And it was absolutely fabulous to see what took place. But this camp, it's a weekend camp, goes through Friday through Sunday. Now, if there's any cost, what we do is we ask if parents can. That's usually $50 or $60. If parents can, if they can do a portion or what have you, that would be great. But if they can't, if the parents can't, then we will pay. We don't want any young man or young woman not be able to go to this camp. So we raise the money, in a sense, to provide that for the young men and for the young ladies.
Oh, now that's great. Now, another question I have is about how many students or how many young men do you have in the Men of Honor, and how many young women do you accept each time?
Well, actually what we do is we go in, we do a school assembly, and we will let kids that say they would like to be a part, they can sign up, and we will give them an opportunity to be a part. We've had anywhere from 60 to 70 kids sign up after a school assembly. And just practically the way it works out, we'll have 30 of them at the beginning, and eventually we'll end up with 15 or 20 of them that'll stick it through. And we have to deal with sports because we're an after-school program. Mm-hmm. So sometimes we have to deal with football, then basketball season, wrestling season, track, and so. But usually we'll keep about 50% of those. So we will have, let's say, in the 4 schools that we're in, we'll have 60 young men. And actually, in the 2 schools we're in, we've got about 30 young ladies in the 2 programs we've got right now.
Wow. Now, are you pretty happy with the success of this program?
Absolutely. We've been. This is our 3rd year, and if I could say it this way, this thing is beginning to get a great deal of traction. A couple things that are the most exciting to me, and one particular school, middle school in the area. When we were there last year, and then we did our 2nd year this year, the principal was so excited by what he saw happen. And we just had a Men of Honor the first year, and going into the 2nd year, we were doing the Men of Honor, and he wanted us to bring in the Ladies of Honor. And what the principal said to us is that we want to begin to sow honor into the culture of this school. So could your 2 clubs meet on Tuesday? And we want to begin to declare Tuesday Honor Day at our school.
That's great.
And so they actually play, and we are a faith-based program, but we understand how to work with, if I can say it this way, within the system. And we want to honor and respect the system. But we play, you can play principles of honor and character and integrity and what have you, and chivalry. So they play our PowerPoints throughout the day on their big screens because they want to sow honor into their culture.
Now that's great news.
Yeah, and then at our banquet, when as this program has gone on, and it was a full year implementation. We've done 2 years, and we did our first awards banquet, and I invited the Muskegon Police Chief, the Muskegon Sheriff. I had some people from the prosecutor's office. We had, as well as Senator Hansen came into our first banquet. I had Senator Hansen speak. Police Chief Lewis read a declaration from the city of Muskegon. But at my table was Prosecutor D.J. Hilson. As he watched the program, he just got so excited by what he saw. And I had meetings the next week with the prosecutor's office and the police chief, and they were like, we believe this is what we need for our community.
Yes.
This is, actually, they said, this is not the answer to our violence problem today in the inner city, but this is the answer 5 years from now. And so we began working with that, and I just got back from Honduras. So just before I left for Honduras, the prosecutor's office, the juvenile division, I like what they're doing. They're putting together a program that when young men or young ladies, whether it's like truancy or curfew violations or minor crimes, something like shoplifting or whatever, they're giving them a choice, and their choice is you can either be charged with a crime, or you can get involved for 6 months in a positive program. Well, I think there's one with the community college, a leadership program, and there's a conflict and resolution thing that they have. But now the third program that they can get involved with is the Men and Ladies of Honor.
Oh, wonderful.
So the prosecutor's office they see the value in this because, to a degree, some of the things, you and I are a little bit older. You don't look that old. But some of the things that maybe a previous generation that we were taught, some of the things that, was just standard in our upbringing, and some of our kids today is not standard anymore.
Yes.
And someplace it's got to be retaught to them, and maybe that value needs to be put on it again. And so I think that even some of our city officials are beginning to see this is something that's missing in our young people today. And some of it used to be taught in the home, but because of the breakdown of the home, somebody's got to go back in and teach it again. And so that's part of what we're doing. Things, you get up when a lady walks in.
Yes.
You help her, you open the door for her, things like that. The way you respond to authority. I grew up in a Southern culture, if I could say it that way, and, I learned to say yes, ma'am, yes, sir, no, ma'am, no, sir, and people look at me funny when I do that. And someone say, I'm not that old, don't call me, But yet that was not a thing of age, that was just a thing of respect that you were brought up with. And so there are certain things that we've missed in this generation that we're trying to go back and teach, that respect for authority. How do you treat the opposite sex? That you keep your word. When you give your word, you keep your word. And then you hold each other accountable, man. You look at your friends and say, come on, we don't do that, But teaching some of those principles of faithfulness, integrity, honor, and teaching those things in young men and young women, and challenging them with that, speaking to that eagle on the inside of them.
There you go. It's speaking to the eagle. And I believe that you are also involved in another project as well. I don't know where you find all the time, but you certainly are very busy. You also have some ministerial counseling here at MCC.
Yes, I have. I've done some stuff here with the, really the religious services or the religious ministry. We have worked with the club, and as well we've done some stuff a while back. We came in and felt like we went in and wanted to find out how we could cooperate with the administration here, and so we come in and they ask us really to go in the student union to help maybe police things a little bit, or and so, but just come in, talk with kids, and be involved, and say, hey, we're here, and reach out to them.
There's also Project Justice. I think you touched a little bit on this other project that you've been called to work with a group of leaders in the community with the prosecuting office that are looking at ways to try and address some of the needs in the community. And so I believe you are involved with that as well.
Yes, ma'am. The prosecutor Hilson asked me to come in there and they shanghaied me, but I count that a privilege. I think there you've got a number of community leaders that are looking at the issues and how we can address the issues, across the spectrum. You've got, the prosecutor, police chiefs, things like that. You've got some pastors, various others, community leaders, the head of the NAACP, and it's and even cross political lines and what have you. But going in there and looking at issues and what we can do and how we can address some of the things to make our community safer and just a better place to live.
There you go. So there is no ethnicity. It's about everyone helping. And you know, as we're coming down to the end of our program today, I just want to leave it open for you to have a few words about what you're working on or any parting thoughts that you have. But once again, we want you to know that Pastor Cross is the advocate for men of honor, and now they have started Ladies of Honor. These programs you can learn about in your schools. Pastor Cross, can you give us a little highlight? How would someone find out about? Is it just for middle school students?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, in our committee that we started, we had the retention officer from Muskegon High School. And he shared with us as we were talking this, do we aim at the middle schools or do we aim at the high schools? And he told us then that as the retention officer, he said if he didn't reach at-risk kids by Thanksgiving of their freshman year, he said usually they lose them. So in a sense, we've targeted the middle schools for the simple fact that we feel like there's still a place where kids are moldable, where we can still have an impact in their lives. And unfortunately, that's just where it's at. So that's our main aim. You know, if I could say anything right now, we have schools open, and I think school principals want to get involved or want this program. What I need are men. I need men of integrity, men of honor, men that have a heart for young people. And I guess ladies as well, because they're asking for the Ladies of Honor as well, more than anything, because there are 12 middle schools in Muskegon County. I want to be in all 12. We're in 4 now, and we've got 2 that are open, that are ready to go. But my situation, and this is a weird situation, it's not a money situation. I've got the money that I need. I need men with a heart for these young people that have no background, skeletons in their background, I guess, you know, and I need men of faith, because we need to be men of example and men of character to reach out to these young people. Because if we don't do that, you know, we're going to be in a rough spot.
And you know, our viewing audience, you are just the ones that we need. Now, you've heard him tell you to call him at Living Word Church, 1551 Wood Street. You can't miss it. The white church sitting right in the middle of Wood Street. And his phone number again is
231-728-2800, extension 24.
Extension 24. And if you just want to drop him a note, maybe you don't have a phone, maybe you can't find a way to call him, drop him a note, put it in the mailbox at the church. Let him know that you're interested in becoming a part of Men of Honor. Pastor Cross, now can you tell me who are the contributors to this program? Do you have outside contributions? Can someone contribute to the program?
Yeah, we would love any type of money. Once, as the program grows, we're just going to need more money. I need roughly, we figure to fund or to keep this program, if we're in all 12 schools, we figure we'd need $30,000 to $40,000 a year to do that. I need about 70 people to make it happen. We've got a full program in reality, from what we do in the schools to actually we're working on a summer program where we would teach job skills.
Wow.
in the summer, and then an extended really camp, a week-long camp for a few of those that might need just to get out and really impact their lives. So within that, we've got here locally, we've done our, and I'd hate to start naming names because I'd be afraid who I'd miss, but we do a golf scramble, and we have a number of businesses here locally that contribute to that have helped us the 3 years that we've done it. We have various businessmen now that are getting involved in that, and we've had some businessmen contact us to say we want to get involved more. So there's a side that there have been individuals that have gotten behind this, but as well there are some larger businesses in the area that are beginning to see because they want to make a difference. They recognize, and even one particular business, and I guess I hesitate mentioning a name just because I don't want to leave anybody out, but one particular large business, large employer has said, you know, they're really looking at this program because they're dealing with having a hard time finding people they can hire people, but can they keep them in more in terms of their character, their work ethic, etc. So they're looking to put something into something that will positively impact future employees.
Yes.
In the fact that it's great that you can work, but if you steal and you lie and you cheat, so I think this type of thing, some businesses have looked at it and said, man, I'd love to help a program like this that will help in the future give me employees that I don't have to watch everything they're doing, that they'll keep their word and they'll be honorable. So financially, we need all the help we can get. I don't know of any preacher that ever turns down money. But, our golf outing businesses have gotten involved with that, and we have a great time at our golf outing. It's a real fun thing. So that's a place where businesses and people can get involved, individuals can get involved, and all of that just helps us raise the money for the future. And, we've had some men that they'd like to get involved a little bit deeper. Some of our politicians have said we want to help out, and some of them are lending, in a sense, their name to help us and help us with some of the businesses in the area, which all of that is great. We appreciate all the help that we can get, and ultimately it's about reaching the young men and the young women. And what the other nice thing is, it is community-wide. It's not just Living Word Church.
Yes.
We've got people involved from various other churches in the area, and we've even got it's politically. We've got conservatives, we've got liberals, we've got Republicans, we've got Democrats, we've got people from the different ends of the political spectrum. Different theological perspectives. But we've come together in that sense of unity and the fact that something has to be done.
Yes,
something has got to be done. To affect these young men and young ladies. Something's got to. And so people are joining together, and we're working together. People are saying that, we may see some things differently on other realms, but you know what? We can come together in unity because something's got to be done to affect our young men and young ladies so that I'd like to see our prison population decrease.
There you go.
I'd like to see our crime decrease in the city of Muskegon and Muskegon County. I'd like for it to be safer here, that you can walk the streets again and not have to worry about bullets flying or something like that.
There you go. And to order for this to happen, you have to, kind of like when I was coming up, they say nip it in the bud. And that's when they're young minds.
Yes,
they're
ma'am.
Impressionable minds.
Yes, ma'am.
And so that's important to us. Now, I have one other question before we have to go. But can you tell me, what are the successes? Have you seen results from what has happened this first or second year?
We've gotten the program going, and the next step is really to measure the results. And so we're in that stage as we get going. But in terms of the one middle school saying, you were here last year, we want to do this again this year, and we want to make this an honor day, that in some form or fashion that apparently the staff are seeing that there is something happening, and that's what we're out for. And actually the way the program got started, it was a middle school principal. His words, he said, I had these 4 knuckleheads that were causing me all these problems. And he said, I put together this program 10 years ago in Dallas, and he said, I started with 4 of them, and then it grew to 10, then it grew to 20, and then before long I had 50 of them that came to this club.
Wow.
And he said, my disciplinary rates dropped by 80% in the school. And so that's what, I guess we haven't measured that or got the measurement back, but by virtue of what parents, moms are telling us about their kids and begging us. And that's the one part that we go, what do we do now? Because our first goal, and it's one of those things you have to be focused on goals, is to get in those 12 schools. We actually have kids now that are in high school that have left the junior high program that are driving to come back to the junior high program they wanted so bad.
Awesome. Living Word Church at 1551 Wood Street is the place. The pastor is Tim Cross, and we want you to call him and volunteer to be a part of this. And we thank you for watching, once again, Community Outreach Update Show. And I, again, am your host for the day, Mary Ann Williams, and I'll see you again real soon. But if you want to know of other activities and programs at MCC, visit us at www.muskegoncc.edu/CE. Thank you.